Okay, I call that Latinized minor swing. I know swing and Latin don't tend to go together. Hey, but there's no music police in the studio. We can do what we want. So this particular episode is called 21.2, and it's called Specificity Strip Down. Sounds like a strange set of words, huh? Okay, for the specificity part. Over time, everybody who's got a computer today and also had a computer 20 years ago, well, the odds are you didn't get rid of all of your old ones. So you have a bunch of them. And you may have a bunch of phones, and you may have a bunch of tablets. You may even have a bunch of keyboards. But they're not all the same, and some are sort of obsolete, and some don't always work. So by specificity, I'm talking about just pick one and use it. And if you've got a whole bunch of them, maybe, since not all the keys work on this keyboard, this computer keyboard, maybe I should just turn this into a music machine and just select drum tracks and not press any buttons over there. So who cares if all the keys don't work? The spacebar works. Spacebar could turn on and off the drums. That's what I mean by specificity. Dedicating a computer to just be a drum machine, that's extremely specific. Strip down? Well, there's a terabyte disk drive in here, and there are so many different musical instruments that I can't even remember them. So what if I took all of them out and just said, I just want you to be a drum machine for now. Well, I have at least 50 different pieces of drum software too. What if I said, well, I'm only going to use one. I'm just going to use a company called Lumbeat, and they make a few different drums, and I'm not going to use this for anything else at all. Well, I'm kind of not telling the truth because I'm also using it to create the piano sounds, but I'm not having to touch anything. They're sort of like automatic. So what I mean by specificity stripped down is, what if you took your gear and you stripped it down to a small subset of them? I'm willing to bet that nobody needs as many apps on their computers and phones as they have. I have roughly between 300 and 400 apps on my Mac, and roughly between 400 plus on the phone, and that doesn't include the tablet. And I think I've got 1,000 apps. And I think that to do what I want to do in life, I probably only need 10. Now, which 10? Well, it depends on the frame of mind you're in. But in this studio, in this frame of mind, I really only need 2. I'm using Logic to play the piano and the bass, and I'm using a drum pattern generator to generate the drums. Infinitely varying drums, humanized drums, not boring because they're not repetitive. And if all I use is just 2 apps, Logic with 2 plugins and 1 drum machine, and I'm at random pulling up drum patterns, well, there's a lot less to go wrong. So this is what I mean by a specificity strip down. By having many less apps and many less choices, I can spend more energy figuring out how to play music that sounds good instead of which sound I ought to use in which way, with what app, with how many controls. I suspect this is not only true of musicians, but it's probably true of everybody. If you are a musician and you can afford it, you should have one machine that's just for music and not try to make it your machine for everything in the world, for word processing and texts and email, because then you don't have to put it in airplane mode when you're performing so that you don't get an incoming call or something. We all have so many devices by now that we could afford to dedicate them and make them specific to a single application. People who do video and people who do audio are the two who I think benefit the most from this. You don't want to be interrupted while you're editing or while you're recording or while you're doing some kind of processing. Wouldn't it be a great luxury if you could take one old computer and just use it for what you do, and then if you had a different computer that you did all of your business stuff on? Sounds crazy to have 2 computers? Well, you probably already do have computers. You just probably didn't get rid of the old one. The old one certainly is good enough for word processing and email and web browsing. Even 10-year-old computers can do that. And techies tend to accumulate computers more rapidly than every 10 years. So I'm going to just revel in the simplicity of this and let this play a little bit more. playing myself out. This is episode 20.2. The original tune called Minor Swing was written by Django Reinhardt around 80 years ago when nobody was feeling any pain except for a world war and poverty and tuberculosis and things like that, which didn't seem to slow anybody down, as opposed to today. Well, people are depressed, so they can't actually get it together. Give me a break. There's no world war going on. Minor Swing Latinized. I should have told the drummer to be Latin. He doesn't know, but I don't mind.